Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to the finale of season 21. We're at Abu Dhabi for what is going to be an absolute incredible race. You can hear the engines of the drivers going out onto track right now. But I'm joined by Joseph, who will give us a quick rundown from last week of the final lap. I suppose is the best way to describe it, because that was pretty epic to end the race.
It certainly was. I mean, it was one of those races that we've had plenty of this year on, particularly Console Tier 1, where it's been absolutely nothing. And then the last few laps, in this particular case, the last lap was absolute carnage. And it was great to watch. And it's set up, season finale, which if Ryderdale loses, it feels like he'll be really missing out on it.
It seems like a bit of deja vu from last season with a driver being on top that could possibly lose it on the final race of the season. I wonder if we're going to get some any sort of deja vu with tyres on this season, because it's happened before. It's happened with the tyre life. But let's have a look at the standings. 115 points for Ryderdale, a good 17 points clear of Matteo. And Matteo, a couple of tough weeks, hasn't it, for Matteo? And Silo up in third place is another driver of what could have been for this season, isn't it? Because they could have very well have been in that championship fight had things gone their way.
Yeah, the pace has really been there, but it's not been the consistency that they would have been wanting. And they've come into form towards the end of the season. Of course, missing 2 races hasn't helped. And I think they would have been in contention otherwise. But 2 wins, 1 podium, more wins actually than the 2 leading drivers. And it is a case of what could have been, and it's a case of what could be next season.
It definitely could be. And 2 drivers, Oscar and Volakongan there, 4th and 5th. Those drivers in there with a shout. Francesco Largo not here tonight, and we can't even say farewell for the championship. The current champion, because they're not on track tonight, so we can't have a proper farewell party for them. But let's head trackside and have a look at what Finley can do as they head through this much improved. Starting the second sector, where you don't have that twisty chicane anymore to get you onto this back straight, or one of the back straights. The whole circuit has improved. I know it's been a while since it's been like this layout, but it's a lot better, isn't it?
Yeah, not to get all propaganda, I've not been paid off by the government, but I feel like they have taken advice into account when it does come to the circuits, and they've made it better for racing. There's still significant improvements to be brought to it, but it's certainly a spectacle. It's a great season finale to have, and it's one of the prettiest circuits. It's one of those on my bucket list, and hopefully I'll get the chance to go there one day. I'm sure with the way that the money is being pumped in, I'm sure that I'll get the chance at some point. But Finley is going to head through the final sector now, and this is where it really tightens up. There's not really many overtaking spots around this final sector, and that could be an oversight, because that is where most drivers might be making moves, but they're going to have to make it earlier on this lap. Silo is going to be the quickest driver so far, a 21.510. Samuel Barker just a bit quicker, and Finley wide out of the final corner, and he only sets a 22.1.
That's not ideal for them. Mateo's on an outlet, but let's go on our championship leader at the moment then, Ryderdale, as they head into turns 5 and 6, and then crosses that DRS detection zone for the second DRS straight here. Obviously in the qualifying it will always be active, unless it's raining, which it's very rare here in Abu Dhabi. You'll get a league race in the wet, but I won't say never, because I have seen it happen. In turn 9 then, the exit, Ryderdale is a little bit squirrely, which means that exit isn't as smooth as they would have liked, so it might not be the best of laps from the ET8 driver at the moment.
No, and you mentioned the rain. I believe it was PC Tier 2 on Monday, which saw rain in qualifying. And, it's something that you don't necessarily see around this circuit, but it was certainly a spectacle to see, as these drivers who'd never competed a lap around this circuit, despite all their experience in the wet, suddenly had their abilities challenged. The first few laps have been thrown in, and it does look like Silo, Samuel Barker and Quantum have the pace over the rest of the field. Nilo goes in 2 tenths behind that pole position time, but he's in 4th place, and he's basically 1.5 seconds down, 1.5 tenths down even on Quantum in that 3rd spot. So, there's big gaps at the moment, and of course the likes of Yasusaki and Lawrence have not set proper laps so far. So slowest time of all is Andrea with a 22.2, And so we've got Fana Spinoda, Matteo and Gavroche on a lap now. And we'll see what Matteo does. It's 51.8 in the first two sectors for the Alpine. Of course, he needs, he needs Riederdal first to finish outside of the top 5 to have any shout of the championship. He needs Riederdal to finish 6th or below. If he finishes 6th, then Matteo wins, then it's going to be Matteo on top. And either way, an Alpine will finish on top at the moment. Matteo sliding out of the final corner, and he goes 9th. And, it's not the greatest start.
Not the greatest start at all for Matteo and the two Alpines, obviously jostling for the championship tonight. Riederdal, I don't know why this has caught my attention, but Riederdal on a 121.828, FRT Dan on a 121.868, and Dirk on a 121.888, so 600ths of a second separating those, all finishing on an 8 and starting with an 8 in that final second point. Just one of those things that caught my eye. Fanaspin managing a 122.309, and I think Gavroche is just about to finish their lap, coming into sector 3 now. So this will be an interesting one for them, but actually they're looking very slow. So maybe a second installation lap, or maybe, I'm not sure. It just doesn't seem like it's a full pelted pace from them coming through this third sector. So it could just be going into the pits. They invalidated their main lap. But it's a little bit of lull in proceedings. Everyone coming back into the pits to finish their qualifying. Their first runs of qualifying, I should say. But yeah, no real surprises as of yet. Silo being obviously one of the quickest drivers, throwing out on the top. Samuel Barker and Quantum on their day are very quick as well, so it's kind of obvious to see them up there. I suppose the surprise is Riederdal and Matteo not performing at their best ability.
Matteo especially, and just to go back to the point you made a minute ago about the identical lap times in terms of the last digit, it gets even weirder. FRT Dan in the first sector set a 17.061. Dirk set a 17.111, so he was exactly 500ths back. Then second sector, Dan set a 34.852, and Dirk set a 34.622. So that was a difference, but still 0 at the end of the column in terms of the differences. Then the final sector, Dan 29.954, Dirk 30.154, so there's exactly 2 tenths between them in the final sector. So the symmetry there between those two drivers is absolutely unbelievable.
That's incredible. I wasn't expecting that to come out of there as well, so fair play. We've got drivers coming back out on track. I think Silo isn't going to be the first driver. It's going to be a Mercedes, is that Finley again going to be one of the first drivers to set lap times, or is it going to be Lawrence? Yeah, it is going to be Lawrence that will set the first of the middle runs of qualifying laps here in Abu Dhabi. Obviously still 9 minutes and 40 seconds remaining, and then we've got the full race, not the full race, sorry, but half race distance, but the race to come after this one tonight. And, well, for a finale, I can only think of a few. Well, I would love it to be Brazil, but I know Brazil is doesn't always give the best of racing action nowadays on the on the esports side of things. But we'll wait and see how Abu Dhabi will find its feet for the finale here, like real F1, and whether we're going to get a Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton moment from 2021, or even a Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton moment. But Lawrence is showing purple in sector 1, which means they're quicker on their first sector. Let's see how the rest of their laps runs down as they head into the second major chicane of turn 6 and actually no, it's the first chicane really now, isn't it, since the old turn 5 and 6 is gone. But let's see how the rest of their lap runs down.
Yeah, it's it'll be interesting if we do see a Hamilton Verstappen thing, especially if they'd be fighting on the circuit. They wouldn't need to do that. But I genuinely think tonight that we're going to be getting some outside interference in the title battle, whether it is somebody having a fight that they don't necessarily need to take, whether it's Nilo, who's making his Tier 1 debut, putting some performance on that's, hinders Riederdal or hinders Matteo, one of the two. Maybe a Vitaly Petrov moment for the kickstart, but we'll wait and see, of course. Of course, the Alpine's driving what would be Vitaly Petrov's car all those years ago, the Renault turning into the Alpine, the French outfits remaining the French. And it's interesting to see the two Alpines fighting for the title. In fact, I don't think we'll ever get the opportunity to see that in real life. But, Well, unless you're Flavio Briatore, then you really do think you'll get that chance. Yasasaki is heading through the final sector, and he's going to set the next lap on this circuit. He is currently on with a 24.5. He's got a driver right in behind him, the Mercedes. So I don't think this is going to be a very quick lap from Yasasaki. Is it going to be an improvement from, is that Finley behind? Yes, it is. It's not going to be an improvement. And so I feel like he's going to feel as though he was held up in that final sector as Quantum up to the top of 21.4.
Very good lap time there from Quantum. Here comes their teammate of Samuel Barker, but Silo takes it straight back. Lauren's up there as well. Ziawadi's just crossed the line. Where is Ryder Dahl through all this? Ryder Dahl is invalidated, so the pressure is setting on one of the Alpines. Here's Matteo then, coming through turn 7 now. Does the pressure hit Matteo this time around?
We'll see whether Matteo is going to be able to hold this one through. As, well, of course, 13th place at the moment. Not ideal. 2 tenths up and allegedly purple, but of course we know what this game is like. And he needs 6 tenths of a second if he wants to take that pole position away provisionally from Silo. So he needs to find 4 tenths in this final sector. This is where a lot of time can be lost. And Matteo now trying to go absolutely flat out. He's not doing any insulation laps anymore. He's not going for any... you know, he's not letting off the throttle. He's throwing his car through the final couple of corners. Is it going to be good enough for that provisional pole? It's a 21.543, so not too far off for the Alpine driver, but he's still just a little bit off the 2 or the 3 even at the top of this field. Samuel Barker, of course, on that 3rd spot, but it's his teammate Quantum on the front row alongside Silo. And is anybody going to be able to challenge them? I know Nilo is heading down the long back straight. And I was having this debate the other day whether that's the real the real main straight around the circuit, because of course the actual straight itself is very short. But Nilo down to the end of it and breaking into the chicane. And he's going to come out on the end of it to the next DRS zone. This is the prime overtaking spot. If you can get yourself set up out of the chicane, you can get yourself a really good stead to improve. Andrea moves up to 15th place. Nilo is not improving on the lap. And so he is not going to be improving on his 6th spot. But eyes turn to the man in 5th in FRT.
Let's see what they can do, as... it's not letting me actually get to FRD down, which is slightly annoying. There we go. Dan on track then, forcing the Kick Sauber driver off the track, but that's because they are rushing through and trying to set a lap time and say that into the pits. There's obviously something Dan not happy with on that one. Matteo's finished. So this is, I believe, the rest of, well, the middle part of qualifying done and dusted, where the yellow flag is continuing flying. So we get the timing screen kind of blocked out for that. I hope that gets changed somewhere in the future, or even in future games at the very least. But 4 minutes 40 remaining. Silo currently on top, has a little bit of a buffer to Quantum and Samuel Barker behind. Would you say that the Silo is going to be the driver that gets pole position tonight?
Of course, he's always the one that you feel as though he's always going to be on that pole position. Only one this year. We've only actually had one driver with more than one pole position. That'd be Francesco Largo. But an even more incredible stat, we've had different winners in every single round, barring the last one where Silo broke the streak and became the second, or the first driver of the season to take his second victory home. But we've had Matteo, who took the victory in Australia, and then we had Azim, who, well, in only his second appearance of 4 is, well, he was in 2nd place, and, or it's 1st place even. He won the 2nd race of the season. Ryder Dahl took his first and only victory so far in Belgium, and then Silo won the 4th round of the season in America. Then Sergioli, in his only appearance, took victory in Monaco before the victory went to Dirk in Azerbaijan. Tony Riesch won in Britain, and then you had Shazuz Oscar in Italy. And then Silo, of course, last time out after Ryder Dahl and Matteo had that controversial moment. Matteo going straight on. And, well, we could be having a 10th different winner tonight, but I'm hoping it's Matteo, you know. I'm hoping that he's going to get the chance and he's going to put all that pressure back on Ryder Dahl. Yeah,
let's see what happens with that, as I think Yasasaki is just going round the track with a full car of fuel. I'm not 100% sure why, but Ryder Dahl is going to start the final, well, possibly the final lap of qualifying they'll do in Season 21 of WOR. And it's a big lap for them because they're currently 12th. Outside of the points, if it was race trim, and then it would be down to the racing gods whether Matteo won the championship or not. But yeah, but it's a lot of pressure on Ryderdal to perform in this qualifying session right now with the position that they're in.
It absolutely is. Of course, there's a rig on the line for the champion. And, well, Ryderdal at the moment is in 12th place in this qualifying session. Matteo, much further up the field, and he's out on his final run in 4th spot. And he is in a much better position as it stands, despite the fact that he had a poor first run. So the order has flipped. It's Alpine on top, and Ryderdal, who's almost matched his lap from before. So he'll be hoping to improve on his final sector. Or he's going to back out and go again. I don't think he's going to do that one, though, as he was already pushing through the first 2 sectors. There is lots of opportunities to regain ERS in his final sector, but it's not quite going to be enough, I don't think. That's a McLaren going slowly in the final sector, either Quantum or Samuel Barker. Hopefully they're not going to hold up our current championship leader, and Ryderdal around the final corner. Is this going to be a significant improvement? Is this going to be an improvement at all? It's going to be a 1:21.647. It's good enough for 7th. And, well, Matteo, the ball's in your court.
It is indeed, and while it is definitely an improvement, Ryderdal's not going to go any higher than 7th, and this could cost them massively. Nail is on a lap, I believe, so let's see what they can do. First race, I believe, in console since Monaco, unless they raced in Japan after the heartbreak in Monaco as well, we should say, after a great result on the PC side of things, and then it didn't really work out for them on console. But here is Nail then coming down towards turn 9. Let's see what they can do.
Yes, of course, the bottle in Monaco, he expected to win and go out with a bang on console. He's, well, ashamedly made his way back, and he's in the Red Bull this evening, but he's going to be going around for one more lap because he's 2 seconds down. So he's backed out at some point of it, and he's going to hope to improve on the time that he's set so far, which is only good enough for 13th place. So it's a battle of the mid down in the mid pack, and Niall Gio is very much in the thick of things, but Silo is, well, he's invalidated on his lap. Quantum is around the final corner. Is he going to be able to improve on his 21.4 in his final lap? He is, and he's going to be able to go up to pole. 21.332 for the McLaren man, and he displaces the Red Bull at the very top of the field. Samuel Barker, I believe, is going once again in 3rd place at the moment. As Ryderdal retires from the session, he won't be improving. Matteo is, and around the final corner, the Alpine will come. Is it going to be anywhere above 4th place? No, he's improved, but it's not enough, and he's 400ths behind Samuel Barker as the checkered flag is waved. Venom is the first one to take the flag. He's in 6th place, and well, let's have a look at all the other drivers heading through. Lifebout up into 5th with a 21.546. That's not bad, but there's room for improvement, and Dan, who's now 4 thousandths down on the Haas driver, is going to try and find that improvement. The final corner beckons then for the number 37, and is it going to be an improvement for Dan? It was in the first 2 sectors, and he displaces Samuel Barker and Matteo into 3rd place. Finley around the final corner. This is going to be a 21.406, an unbelievable lap time from the Mercedes under such pressure and with such low expectations. Viade around the final corner. Chris RBL takes his 12th place off him, and Viade goes up to 8th. So there's lots of improvements, lots of time in this final sector, and on these final laps, Fanis Benoda up to the line. It's 17th for him. Dirk around the final corner, and it is going to be 13th for the V-Carb. Niall Gio around the final corner, and then he is going to be one of the last drivers to take the flag, and it's going to be a lap time of a 1:21.929. It's not an improvement. Yasser Saki's not improving, and Silo is slow. So, well, that is going to be the end of the qualifying session, I think. Quantum's on pole. Silo's alongside him on the front row, and your 2 championship contenders are 6th and 11th.
This is proving and shaping up to be a rather, well, interesting finale here, especially with Ryderdal in the thick of things in the middle. You never know what's going to happen. I think it was mentioned in the stream last week. We haven't had that many safety cars this season, considering round 1, lap 1, we had one within 2 corners. We thought it might be quite a heavy, hectic safety car season. We haven't had that many, maybe 5 tops. But when you're in the middle pack and you're a faster driver that know that you can get through, sometimes that can cause issues, can't it?
It certainly can, and I think it will cause issues today, especially with Ryderdal knowing he has to make his way through. It's not necessarily the easiest to overtake on this year's game, but he's going to need to make those moves here tonight. I haven't actually done the maths because I thought that Ryderdale was going to be able to qualify well, but I haven't done the maths on any of the positions if he finishes lower down. But it will certainly do him well if he's able to finish further up. If he's outside of the points, then that means that it has to be a minimum of a podium for Matteo to take the championship away. And the Alpine has not done a bad performance so far, but he needs just that little bit better. Dropping down to 6th place in the end as Quantum on pole position, Silo alongside him on the front row, Finley and Dan with laps right at the very end. That took them up to 3rd and 4th. And Samuel Barker is in 5th. He'll be alongside Matteo, who needs that podium in 6th place. Live Bout in 7th, and then Zviade, Venom, and our debutant Nilo rounding out the top 10. Ryderdale is in 11th place. He'll be alongside Lawrence on the 6th row of the grid. Dirk in 13th, and Chris RBL in 14th. Then it's Andrea and Niall Gio, Fanas Binoda, Gavroche, and Yasisaki, the final qualifier, with the final driver on the grid being Azim, who was disqualified from the session. I assume some sort of ban that he's got. But race day is ready to get underway, and wow, this could get interesting.
It could indeed, as there's no penalties, so no World Online restart, which we haven't really had to say much this season at all. But from last race out, I think you've summed it up perfectly a moment ago. But the big crescendo final lap into the Casio Triangle, Matteo kind of went deep trying to keep on to that position, and it cost them majorly. But Matteo and Silo side by side for the whole first sector as well. That was a huge moment. Let's have a look at the calendar, because it just to see how things have been. Australia, that's where we started the season. Spain, Belgium, United States, Monaco, Azerbaijan, Great Britain, and Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, Japan, Abu Dhabi is where we finish tonight. And this is the end of season 21 as a whole. I'm sure through the Twitter and the Discord we'll get more information from 22. But the standings is where it's at. Look at that, 17 points between Ryderdale and Matteo. Silo, we've already crossed out of this one, but what could have been for them? Volokongan on 72 points. The reigning champion is no longer going to be called that tonight. Oscar, another driver that what could have been, because Oscar's shown some... And Francesco Largo, not here tonight. They've moved to PC, I believe, as well. But Oscar, a driver that was so quick, just couldn't get it together all the time and not been here all the time.
Yeah, it's all about that consistency. Silo missing 2 rounds means that he misses out on the championship finale, and that's just the way that it is going to be for him. And he's going to hope to come back next year with more consistent attendance, and maybe he could be up there. I think he's certainly got the pace to be there. I think Samuel Barker and Silo could be interesting drivers to keep an eye out for season 22. And don't forget, sign-ups are going to be open very soon. Join the Discord. It's in the description of the video that you're watching right now. And so it's all of the information that you are going to need in order to join us on the grid. And hopefully you can find yourself in a championship battle just like the 2 Alpines have got right now. It was very close 2 rounds ago. And Ryderdale has just had the edge. They were both poor, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, when they headed to Italy. Matteo DNFing and Ryderdale ending up on the podium then. Of course, both on the podium in Japan. So it was a very much in the favour of Ryderdale, and it looks like that might be the race to swing it in his favour. But the drivers are just getting ready, and we will be underway very shortly for the final time here in season 21, our first season of F1 25, and it's had trials and tribulations. Of course, the difficulty with the attendance, occasionally seeing drivers stepping in for their debuts, and we've got another one tonight in Nilo. But well, of course, we've got returning drivers, the likes of Niall Gio and Andrea, who started the season in console tier 1. Both have gone on to different things. Andrea being demoted through choice, may I add. And, well, Niall Gio moving over to PC Tier 3. He felt like he couldn't cut it with the top of the elites of the console anymore. And so he decided to make the step across to PC. And he's had a pretty good start there, in all fairness. But he's back to the console side, and he's not had the greatest of starts to his, well, his reintroduction, 16th place on the grid, ahead of the other 2 Frenchmen, or at least the 2 registered Frenchmen on the grid, Fanas Binoda and Gavroche. But, I mean, Quantum and Silo on the front row, they've shown pace today. Quantum hasn't quite shown the pace we're used to. We get a lot more consistency from him, but for the final time here in season 21, the lights are on, the drivers are ready, and the action's underway. Quantum gets off to an incredibly strong start, and he's going to be ahead into turn 1, but Silo gets the better traction, and he's almost pulled alongside. He drops down and stays in P2. Matteo in 5th place. He manages to get past Samuel Barker, and he's going to chase down FRT Dan in that 4th spot as Viade and Venom go side by side. The Williams and the V-Carb will remain side by side into the next braking zone of the hairpin, and it's going to be a move for the Williams as FRT Dan is overtaken by Matteo. It's an insane start for the Alpine as his teammate stays in 11th.
And what's even more crazy about it is Matteo's on the hard compound of tyres as well, with the only one in the top 17 that is, and he's looking up the inside of Finley and nothing doing on this occasion. Samuel Barker and Lifebout having a squabble away as well for the battle for P6. Ryder Dahl still stuck in 11th place in the traffic, but this is perfect for Matteo right now. Exactly what they need to do. They will be pacey towards the end of the Grand Prix. Ryder Dahl has got up into 10th place, and Lifebout throwing up the inside of Samuel Barker. That's exactly what Lifebout needs to do to get some more points on the board for there. But the two protagonists this evening, and Ryder Dahl, goodness me, Lawrence and Ziawadi squabbling away, and Ryder Dahl somehow stays ahead of both of them when he could have got collected in an incident, which is what we spoke about pre-race.
Yeah, he got very lucky there to manage to avoid it. But Zviade has not had the greatest first lap. He had a fight with Ryder Dahl, which he lost. He had a fight with Lawrence, which he lost. And he's now fighting with Dirk for that 12th place. As, fastest lap, of course, goes to Quantum, who's in the lead of this one. Matteo did have a look down the inside of Finley. He's desperate to get onto the podium. He knows the ramifications, and he knows that if he's able to take that P3, then it's going to, minimum P3, then it's going to throw it in the court of Ryder Dahl. And he's going to try and make his teammate respond as he tries to force his way through the middle order. He's got Nilo for company. But, looking further down, Azim starts his climb up the field. He's managed to make his way past Fannis Binoda and Yasisaki in the early skirmishes, and he is on the hard compound tyre. And with the DRS enabled this lap, that's going to help all of the drivers a little bit more along, as Yasisaki is going to try and get through on Fannis Binoda as well. And there's a send from Dirk on Zviade. Is he going to be able to pull this one off? That's a very strong move from the V-Carb. And he moves up to 12th place as there's a switch for the lead. Silo and Quantum swapping DRS.
It's a big freeway nearly as Zawadi getting back past Dirk. Dirk has the inside line for turn 9, so that's back position gain for them. Zawadi trying to fight it, but not able to on this occasion. Chris RBL was getting involved there as well, but we might see Silo and Quantum just swapping positions like that. But what's your take at the moment with Matteo throwing that big curveball going on the hards to start with?
It was a gamble. He needs to gamble at this point in the race, and it's certainly paid off. Samuel Barker's into the pit lane on lap 3 of this race, so damage surely for the McLaren, which is not going to help Ryder Dahl it's going to help Ryder Dahl. It's not going to help Matteo at all. There is damage. It's a front wing change for Samuel Barker, and that promotes Ryder Dahl a place. That promotes everybody behind a place. And another crucial development in this one is Nilo has lost DRS to Venom, which means that Ryder Dahl has to get past on this lap.
Has to, or otherwise the break in the chain will be huge, and Ryder Dahl might not catch back up. Let's have a look at it from Ryder Dahl's point of view. A little bit of ERS burning to go with it, and Ryder Dahl is through up into 8th place, getting ever so much closer to that, the promised land of P5 to make sure that they're the champion pretty much through that one. But still 1.1 outside of Venom. They've got a little bit of work to do, Ryder Dahl.
Absolutely crucial at this point in time. He's not going to get the dirty air of Venom, though, and that could be crucial in seeing his way through. As Venom now trying to attack Lifebout there, almost dropping out of the DRS of Dan. It's 9/10 at the last click, and that is not very good for the Haas driver at the moment, or the V-Carb, or indeed everybody else down the field. Ryder Dahl has managed to make his way comfortably within. He's 8/10 back, and so he'll get DRS on the next lap. He is pushing as hard as he can, though, because he knows that any move that he makes will put all that pressure on Matteo, who settled into the race. He looked for moves early on the likes of Finley, but he's decided to just back out. He doesn't need to make those moves just yet. He can get through them with strategy.
Yeah, the tyres are always going to come the Alpine's way for all that, as Gavroche picking up a 3-second time penalty for their trouble. It's going well. Matteo, it is going well as it can be. But there's been moments in the past couple of weeks where it's been going well and it hasn't ended up going their way. They are all over the back of that Mercedes again, but the Mercedes looks like, or Finley, I should say, looks like they've got the greater straight line speed as they head into turn 6 and 7. Matteo is all over the back, as is Quantum of Silo as well. Could we see change in the lead again as they head towards turn 9?
I think they are just swapping DRS. It's a very smart move from Quantum and Silo at the moment just to extend their gap. It's now up to about 8 tenths on Finley, who needs to make his way back in. Matteo is trying to push because he knows Finley is low. He knows Finley hasn't got much to fight with in terms of the battle between himself and Quantum and Silo. And so he remains behind. Lawrence has had a problem and he is going very slowly. Cuts across. I believe that's Gavroche. Indeed it is. But in the end, Gavroche able to avoid him with no problems at all because Lawrence is ghosting. But I think that's the Williams having significant problems and he drops down. 3-second time penalty going Andrea's way. That's the second 3-second of the race. The first one going the way of Gavroche as that's a send to the inside of Lawrence on Gavroche and he gets through but not necessarily cleanly and Gavroche looking to fight back, but there's only so much you can do against somebody who's willing to fight that aggressively. He goes for it anyway and they remain side by side both off the circuit as well there's no love lost between the two and well Gavroche still able to get through but in the end Lawrence sends it back and Gavroche spins round.
Yeah, not ideal. There we go. Lawrence, I believe, letting Azim through there as well out of... I'm not sure why, but there's front end plate damage and on Lawrence's car. Front left, that is the damaged part. There's Gavroche back to 19th place and Samuel Barker in 20th with that. Matteo has got past Finley in all this squabbling. Finley's trying to switch back through turn 7, but it's not available. There is now Matteo's chance to keep in touch with Quantum and Silo. And if I was Quantum and Silo, who were swapping positions, they probably were happy with Finley being there. Matteo, maybe not so much.
Well, Silo and Quantum into turn 6, they both look like they've braked very late to try and fight each other. And in the end, Matteo braked so late that he almost went into the back of Quantum just because of how slowly the McLaren was going. Or maybe it was going into the back of Silo. Either way, he just about managed to avoid damage. And, well, that's the sort of luck that you need. But Matteo's on the podium. Rydal in that 8th place still. And he looks to be stuck behind Venom as there's yellow flags. Lawrence is doing Lawrence things down at the back of the field. So we won't focus on that one too much. But lap number 6 of 29 now. And it's going to be Silo leads Quantum, leads Matteo. And Finley, who's dropped down behind Matteo. I think it's fair to say that the Mercedes doesn't quite have the pace of the Alpine. And so he might get swallowed up by the Aston Martin very soon. Yeah,
FRT Dan has shown some great pace. I think it was one of those perfect laps from Finley in qualifying, which made to get them jump up that high. Lawrence picking up a 10-second penalties, and there's the retirement to follow in the pit lane, and that is that done for the Williams driver this evening, as there is that little bit of a gap building again, like you mentioned, between Matteo and Finley, which is holding about 7/10 of a second. But Matteo they've got pace this evening, especially on a race trim, because they are doing really well to hold together with Silo and Quantum.
Yeah, they're doing very, very well to just keep going on those tyres. And, I mean, at this point, it's just very much about trying to settle into the race. You are in a position that you want to be in. You're in a strong place as well, with Lifebout dipping in and out of the DRS of Dan. And so you don't want to squander this. You don't want to make any mistakes. So whilst it's a comfortable position, it's a position which could be one of the most pressured. And we're going to head around to lap number 7 of 29. And Quantum dives into the pits. So that's going to be a very early stop from the McLaren. He's going to switch off of the medium compounder tyre. Is that the right call at this point in the race? I think it might be a lap or two too early.
It's going to be interesting, especially to see what tyres Quantum decides to go on to. Azim... Sorry, it's Nail going into the pits as well. So that's 2 drivers going through. Quantum desperately wanting track position by the looks of things, as Matteo is, well, now into 2nd place. Rydal into 4th, but obviously with the pit stops, it's a position extra for them. And I wonder if Silo will fight Matteo as they head towards turn 6 and 7, or whether Matteo will wait until the next straight, which I think is where Matteo is going to wait to strike on the Red Bull car.
Yeah, it looks like that's what he's going to do. As I said, in qualifying, it's a great opportunity to set yourself up with. If you can take it out of the chicane, you can get close with that first burst of DRS, and of course that's the longer burst of DRS. And Matteo now is going to pull alongside and ahead before the braking zone. So that is a perfectly executed move from the Alpine, who is going to try and push as hard as he can to get free of Silo. I think maybe the Red Bull as well has not fought him that hard because he knows he's going to come into the pits this lap. So I think we might be seeing the Red Bull dive in on lap number 7, heading on to lap number 8 of this Grand Prix. And Matteo now is going to get the chance to push. And this is the point of the race where he could win or lose the championship. He knows that going longer is going to cost him a lot of time in terms of when they come out of the pits. Of course, those drivers on those mediums that switch to the hards are going to be out there quicker, as Silo doesn't actually come into the pits. Lifeboat, Venom and Nilo do, as does Viale, promoting Ryderdal to 5th place. But crucially, Ryderdal has no DRS. He's 2.3 off of Dan, and I think it would have made more sense for the Alpine to come in there, surely.
You would have thought so, and this is possibly a problem for Ryderdal, as they're just pulling away slightly from Dirk, but that's a very odd decision. But you did mention that there was, maybe a couple of laps too early for Quantum. Maybe Ryderdal is thinking, well, it's very much too early for me. And actually, Ryderdal is catching slowly to Dan. Now it's coming away down there on the back straight. But that is very, very interesting. Maybe we're going to see some of these mediums to lap 9.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, they can go to about lap 11 with no problems, and it's just all about getting that undercut, which is very strong around this circuit. Matteo not overtaken by Silo with that DRS, and Finley dropping back to about 7/10 back. He's much quicker in the corners than the straights, so Silo is not going to have much pressure put on him by the Mercedes driver. He's got free rein to push up to the back of the Alpine in the lead of this race as it stands, and well, it's all down to when do these drivers come into the pits. That will decide the championship, as it's decided many of the races in this campaign. One lap earlier will see you gaining a second. Another lap earlier, that sees you gaining 2 seconds, but that means your tyres are worse at the end of the race. It's not been easy to overtake on F125 so far, and so all of the drivers that have gone for the undercut generally see the strategy go well. Matteo, knowing he has to gamble today, has gone onto the hards. He's going on the overcut, so he's going on a strategy that, well, scientifically, mathematically, should not work. But I've got faith in that strategy. I've got a faith that that is going to work well. And I've got faith in it because of these first 9 laps. The pace he's shown is unbelievable in comparison to the rest of the field. He's eking out 0.3 of a second to Silo without that DRS. Of course, Silo builds it back in with the DRS, but he's eking out those gaps. He's building those opportunities for himself to push, and he's not using that much. He's not pushing that hard. So it's going to be interesting as Silo tries to make a send. I think he's just had a bit of a lock-up and forces himself to try and go for a move, and that's going to cost him on exit.
It does indeed. You can see the time go crazy there, but I've just seen Dirk has dispatched Ryderdal. Ryderdal struggling on the overall pace. Let's see what happens as they come towards turn 9. Silo still behind. Ryderdal really struggling through all this. Ryderdal is 5 seconds behind Matteo as things stand. Quantum 15 seconds behind Matteo, but on the fresh, hard compound of tyres. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one will continue to pan out. Let's go back to the front. Let's have a look at Silo and see how much time they lose through these final few corners into the pits. I think that was a late decision to go into the pits there, because that looked like they were ready to take normal line through turn 15 and heading into turn 16, but they've gone, nope, or whether they've been told something different about Quantum's lap times, I'm not sure, but that was a late decision in. Finley and Ryderdal, more importantly, have decided to stay out.
Yeah, he's throwing himself through the corners, and I think he was struggling for traction on that lap. That's why he had that problem into turn 6. But at the moment, as I've disconnected from the session, the moment, it's looking interesting. Oh dear, don't tell me that we've had a lobby breakdown at a time where it could be crucial for the championship. That would be disappointing. Are we back in? I can't really tell. Okay, so Matteo's on the circuit. Not anymore. Okay.
This is something new.
So Lawrence has left, which has ruined the server, basically. Oh dear. Because Lawrence obviously retired. He's left the session, which caused desync, and that would have been that's a shame, because that looked like a really good fight.
Yeah, it was. It's going to be one of those where we won't actually see the end of it. It's odd that they've thrown everyone back into. It's in the lobby. Everyone's on. What is going on? Right. Okay. Let's turn that off because I don't want to be listening to this. But what is going on? This is crazy. We've been told to restart. This is going to be a late night by the looks of things.
Are we restarting from the start? Oh no. Well, that foils the strategy for Matteo, I think, and that throws a lifeline to Ryderdal. Right. Okay. So we've got the opportunity to look again. I mean, in particular, Ryderdal's got the opportunity to look at that strategy again. He went too long, and I think he knows that now. So realistically, Matteo's kicking himself, and he's kicking Lawrence as well.
Yeah, that's mental. Right, so I think while we get things sorted and everyone ready and sorted for the race, we're going to go maybe to the intermission screen, and we'll be back very, very shortly to give you a further update of what's going on. But with the race will restart very, very shortly. Welcome back, everyone. We are on the grid now, waiting for lights out, or I say lights are on, and for the cars to, or the drivers to pick their strategies and everything, and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, let's run down what is happening. Standing wise, I was going to bring up something about round 2, about Matteo and Riederdal at our last interjection, and I've completely forgotten to put round 9 back up, and it is a 17-point gap between Riederdal and Matteo. That is where we're at the moment. Strategies now could completely change, though, couldn't they? Bit from what we saw just moments ago.
Yeah, it could, and having a look at the selections right now, of course, that's not a perfect demonstration, but this time Matteo's on the mediums and Riederdal is on the hard compound of tyre. That is the way it sits at the moment. Everybody else is on the mediums, and maybe we're seeing the Alpine switch.
Maybe indeed. I know you and I had a quick little chat outside of, well, in the intermission screen where we were talking about what could happen and why this is, why that, and we're going racing pretty quickly, so we can't even talk about that. I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, lights are on, drivers are ready, and we're going once again. It's the final time for real this time here in Console Tier 1, and Quantum gets a strong start. Finley gets a better start than the last time, and Samuel Barker looks down the inside of Dan. He got a better start, which means Matteo was unable to pull alongside. There's yellow flags out as both the Ferraris and Dirk have had problems at the start of this race, and Dirk has already retired on the circuit, so that's a 4th driver now to, have problems. As that is going to be a huge moment for Samuel Barker. Through goes Matteo, through goes Venom, through goes Lifebout, and he's managed to get the move done anyway. He didn't even need any of a bad start from anybody else. Riederdal is fighting with Zviade as they head down the straight towards turn number 6, and who's going to be later on the brakes? It's going to be Riederdal. He might be able to get through on Samuel Barker as well, but no, he tucks him behind, and so P9 for Riederdal. He's got Chris RBL on the back of him, trying to give him a push, trying to bump draft him down the straight one more time. But we continue on. It's lap number 1 once again, and all the strategies are the same. Everybody's on the mediums, apart from Matteo, who's on the hards, as Riederdal down the inside as Samuel Barker tries to make his way through. Barker stays alongside, and the McLaren is costing him so much time. But Lifebout ahead isn't that much quicker, and Samuel Barker late braking, able to get back through, and I believe we've had another disconnection for some of the French drivers in this, as Fanis Benoda and Niall Guillaume I've seen drop out, Gavroche as well, and let's hope that is just a phantom one, and we're able to get them back in soon. End of the first lap then, Quantum's in the lead, Silo's in 2nd, Finley's in 3rd, Dan's in 4th, and Matteo, he's 5th, 1 place lower than he was before. Riederdal, 1 place higher.
Yeah, this is not been an ideal start for some of those drivers like it was last time out, but Riederdal definitely had a better start. Niles back into the race, and Matteo would have wanted to be ahead of FRT Dan at the absolute least, because Dan is is a tricky customer, while Finley, they both should be able to get through quite quickly. Quantum and Silo may try to do things a little bit differently this time around as well, as Gavroche getting past the ghosted car of Nail until they get full control of that vehicle. But a feel for Dirk, doing pretty well last time out, and then this time lasted just 1 corner.
Certainly did difficult for the V-Carb to swallow, but now we head down the straight. Riederdal trying to close in as Silo gets through on Quantum, and Riederdal on the outside line of Samuel Barker. The McLaren is putting up an absolutely ridiculous defence, parking it on the apex and staying ahead, and the McLaren remains ahead of the Alpine, and it's a very solid defensive performance from a McLaren that maybe doesn't need to, but he's very quick, and he's trying to remain ahead. Finley is now 8/10 back on Quantum, and could this be the DRS dropped by the end of lap number 3?
We'll have to wait and see. Great defensive driving from Samuel Barker there, as well. It was this lap that they went into the pits on the race before, let's say, but they didn't need the front wing change this time around, as holding station quite well with Lifebout just ahead, and this is more problems for Riederdal. We said in the intermission while off screen that we hope Riederdal fights it and just fights and tries to go through the field and don't hold back. At the moment, they're being very reserved.
Yeah, they are at the moment. I mean, it makes sense. Matteo didn't have as great a start, and I think his engineer will literally just be updating him on where his teammate is on the circuit. Yellow flags as Andrea, I believe, has a moment out of the pit lane. He's not had a great restart either. He didn't have a great race, but the restart's gone even worse. Matteo stays in behind Dan as they head down towards turn 6, 7. And, well, they'll come out on the exit and towards turn number 8 with the DRS. Zviade, in the meantime, drops back past Yasisaki as the Haas moves up into 12th place. And there's a switch for the lead once again. Quantum through on Silo. He had to late break to get it done, but he did so in the end. And the McLaren and the Red Bull fighting each other harder than they did the previous time around. Finley still losing time. So at some point soon, Matteo's either got to get past Dan and Finley, or Dan's got to get past Finley and Matteo follow through.
Yeah, this is going to be very, very tough for Matteo, because with that tyre advantage to the mediums at the moment, it's going to be difficult to drive through. They had a great start last time, which helped them massively, but they've got to be sat behind some slower cars, and this is going to affect their tyre life, isn't it, being stuck in the dirty air, so they don't want to be doing that for too long.
Yeah, the crucial part about the last race was they got the crucial clean air at one point. They were right on the back of FRT Dan, who's had a terrible first couple of corners. It's going to need to be a late lunge. He's going to make the late lunge. Matteo with the guts. Can he make his way through? He is, and he's up into 4th place. So it's normal service resumed for the Alpine, who now need to get past Finley, but he's pushed a hell of a lot harder to get past the Aston Martin, and it might not even work out as Andrea retires from the session, becomes the 2nd driver this evening, or in this restart too, the 3rd driver overall, and Matteo's up to 4th place. Ryderdal remains in 9th, and as it stands, Matteo will have to climb to 2nd place if he wants to take that title away. He's trying to get past Finley as well as Quantum and Silo swap once again, but it's remaining relatively calm between the two at the top at the moment, and well, it just feels like chaos is about to unfold. Ryderdal getting right up to the back of Samuel Barker. The McLaren is putting on a masterclass. Well, Matteo may
I just thought their Ryderdal was going to make a late lunge into 12 there, but not. But Matteo, if they win the championship, may have to send some money Samuel Barker's way as a thank you for the defensive masterclass that they're showing up at the moment. I said earlier on, maybe we're going to get some controversial moments like Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton 2021. It's definitely been one of those evenings so far, and maybe Samuel Barker can claim the Ministry of Defence for McLaren instead of Sergio Perez for Mexico. I think that was a comment at the time, holding up Lewis Hamilton. But back onto the race at hand, Samuel Barker's still doing a really good job of defending at the time being. Let's have a look at Finley and Matteo. I think Matteo's just going to hold back and make those tyres survive a little bit, or just recharge the ARS, because they get such a good launch out of turn 6 and 7 compared to the drivers ahead, that maybe next lap we'll see Matteo go for a move on Finley.
Yeah, we may well do. I just want to point out, by the way, that the man that could decide the championship in 2021, it was Nicholas Latifi in a Williams. Lawrence today is in a Williams, and I mean, there has got to be some sort of coincidence. It's those first laps we saw from Dan and Dirk. That was a sign of something to come. And Matteo around the outside of Finley, trying to turn fortunes in his favour. And he's up to 3rd place with a very, very good move into the final sector, just managing to get the space on the outside line. Finley gave him all the room he needed, and the Alpine is up onto the podium positions, and he chases down Quantum and Silo. And you wouldn't think that he's on the slower tyre, would you?
Not at all. Absolute great work. Samuel Barker into the pits again. Not this early for the McLaren driver. Let's have a look at what sort of, if there is damage, or whether it is just a tyre change. It is just a tyre change. Very, very early for the McLaren driver. Wanted to get positions early doors this time around. But a big lock-up for Finley into turn 9, which allowed the door to be open for Matteo. And, well, the rest is history. Some really good battling between the two of them, but Matteo came out on top with some incredible pace on the harder compounder tyre.
Yeah, very, very strong pace, and he's showing his championship quality so far here today. He's waiting behind Silo and Quantum for one of those two to make a mistake. There will be a mistake some point soon, as Zviade's into the pit lane as well. He's going to be the last driver out of them, and well, we've got Samuel Barker, Azim, Lawrence, Yasisaki, and Zviade, who've all pitted onto a set of the hard compound tyres as Quantum chases Silo once again for the lead of this race. He's not going to be close enough. But Lawrence, speaking of him and Azim, and Lawrence is up into 13th place. Azim is down to 14th, and well, the fights further down the field are looking like they're going to spark up. Samuel Barker is ahead of the DRS of Lawrence, so I think he's going to be able to play a crucial part in this championship battle. Not only has he demonstrated his loyalty to Matteo by defending against Ryder Dahl, but this time he might get the chance to get the undercut, manage to defend against Ryder Dahl, and then come out on top for Matteo. It's an early pit stop for Silo. It's an early pit stop for Quantum. And, well, Matteo is going to take the lead of the race. Finley's going to be in second, and Venom's going to be in third as the majority of the first pack pit. Ryder Dahl, crucially, does not once again.
Yeah, this is earlier for Silo as well. Silo doesn't want to lose that ground to Quantum like they did last time around of asking. Let's have a look at Samuel Barker's position in all this and see where they come out. They're just coming around under the track now. Does Samuel Barker actually get a chance at undercutting these drivers? I don't think they will, but going to be ahead of FRT Dam, which could be crucial come the end of this. But again, does Ryder Dahl make a mistake of not pitting in similar sort of time because they're outside of that second to Venom again?
It feels like he is making a mistake, although he is, I believe, going to get DRS on the next straight. Indeed, he is. So it's not cost him as much as it did in the previous time, where he's about 2.4 seconds back. He gets the DRS, but I can tell you that back of his car is flashing. His battery is completely depleted. FRT Dan, his battery is basically depleted. He has overtaken Samuel Barker. He's pushed into that 10th spot, and it's 1.5 between Dan and Quantum now. But with the DRS, Samuel Barker looks to fight back for that 10th spot. Is Ryder Dahl diving into the pit lane this lap? We will wait and see as Samuel Barker remains behind Dan. Ryder Dahl around the final couple of corners. Do Finley and Venom dive in? And I think that might make a decision as to whether Ryder Dahl does as well. Yep, Venom's in. Ryder Dahl's in. Lap 7 going on to 8 of this Grand Prix, and the Alpine dives in.
Apologies, I coughed and I left the mic on mute, and this could work perfectly for Finley, because Finley has stayed out to try and stay within the DRS of Matteo, and he's going to have that extra tyre life to their advantage come the end of the Grand Prix, which might be a smart move from the Shizou Cedar Ignited driver. And where does Ryder Dahl come out in all this? Obviously, this isn't net position really as we speak, but Ryder Dahl down out of the points in 15th. If things decided to stop right now, Matteo's the champion.
Yes, but of course, well, I mean, unless Lawrence is hosting the lobby, which I know he's not, things will not stop right now as Gavroche gets past Nalgeo. This is for 4th place. And well, the two French drivers fighting over it. They haven't got much to lose in this race as they both disconnected early on, and they are both down the bottom of the field. Of course, they haven't got that reflected yet in the standings. That's because they haven't come into the pits yet. And so they are just 2 of 5 drivers not to dive in. They are the last 2 of the 5 drivers, in fact, not to dive in. Do Finley and Chris RBL decide to come in on this lap? Gavroche and Nalgeo as well, but they are less effective in the battle. Samuel Barker through on Dan and into 8th place. That battle continues. Finley is going to stay out, as is Chris RBL. And so those drivers are going to go on to 8 laps on the medium compounded tyre. Very, very much doable. But towards the end of this race, they might, or towards the end of the stint, they might struggle for grip. We saw Silo diving in because he struggled for grip towards the end of the stint. Will the 4 medium runners do the same? I'm not sure, but I know something for sure, and that's that Finley's losing time to Matteo.
Indeed, he is, yeah. Silo and Quantum, they've only really gained about a second in the lap to Matteo, maybe half a second. So at this time around of asking, Matteo is still holding strong with the tyres situation as it is, but it's not one of the longest pit stops on the circuit as Ryder Dahl getting past Yaki Asaki, as Gavroche being dispatched by Nail again as per you. It seems like it was just swapping positions like we saw with Silo and Quantum. I wasn't saying that Gavroche is constantly getting overtaken. But yeah, as we look through, we'll watch Ryder Dahl and see what they can do. Because Azim's just ahead. Let's see if they can... What ET8... what the 2 ET8 drivers will do with each other.
And this is exactly why you don't go for the overcut on this game, because he's just had to fight with Yasisaki. Yasisaki, don't forget, qualified so much further down the field. He qualified 18th. So Ryder Dahl is basically fighting with the driver who qualified 18th, was probably fighting outside of the points, and he's had to force his way through. That is the problem that Ryder Dahl's had with this strategy going long. That's the problem that Matteo will have at the end of the race by going long. and it is that they're going to have to fight through the drivers further down the field, which is why I think it's interesting that Ryderdale did decide to go so late into the stint, because it very much made sense to not do that. It very much made sense to come into the pits early on and manage to get the jump on those drivers, but instead he's having to fight Yasser Saki, he's having to fight Azim, he's going to have to fight Venom and Lawrence in a minute as well. So I think it's a missed opportunity, but is it going to be one that costs him, knowing that there's three drivers out of the race, basically, if we're going to count the driver who could not make it to the last part of this race. Ryderdale through on Azim. There's not going to be much fighting put up by the Mercedes, and he is able to make his way through. But, I mean, there's not much pressure on Ryderdale now, unless Matteo wins the race.
Yeah, Ryderdale is... Not. I don't want to say sitting pretty. There's still some drivers that they have to dispatch and get some moves done. But right now, it's only lap 10 of 29. Things still can happen. They've got good tyre life out of everything else, so they will wait and see. Just ahead, though, Venom and Lawrence having a little squabble just behind Lifebout, and that's something Ryderdale has to come across, and also Samuel Barker, which they had so much trouble with in the first stint. Yes, they'll have the better tyre life, but Samuel Parker showed some real good pace there. Finley stayed out again. He's now 2.4 seconds behind Matteo. Lost an awful lot of time to the race leader.
Yeah, those mediums are shot now, so it only makes sense for Finley, Chris RBL, Gavroche, and Nargio to stay out. If they're going to have some sort of, strategy to play in for somebody behind. Maybe they're fighting for somebody. Nargio's dropped back past behind Silo and Quantum, and he's just had a slide, and he's going to drop down behind a few more drivers now, right into the thick of the battle with Lifebout, who he lets through. Is he going to be holding up Lawrence, Venom, and therefore Ryderdale just a little bit here? We will remain to wait and see, but the Red Bull having problems in the first couple of corners on this racetrack, and he almost spins round, able to save it, and he's going to try and defend against Lawrence, but there's not much he can do on 10-lap-old mediums as Lawrence down the inside. Now he's going to try and brake later, but braking later on worse tyres means you lock up and you open the door to Venom, who makes his way through.
What happens now with Ryderdale? Dispatches have now pretty quickly there. That I was expecting a little bit more, but Ryderdale is going to get through Venom as well into turn 9. And that was really easy. That's 2 positions Ryderdale has got through without much of a hassle. And it's 17 seconds now behind the race leader of Matteo. Is Finley now pitting? No. Finley decides to stay out yet again. Interesting from Finley and their current mindset with all this. Chris RBL has decided to stay out as well. I wonder what's going on there.
As is Gavroche, but Nargio, of course, is going to come in his tyre wear, potentially worse than Gavroche, Finley and Chris RBL. But, I mean, it's worth a gamble at this point to wait for a safety car, especially when the race isn't going your way for Gavroche. But for Finley, doesn't really make so much sense. Chris RBL a little bit better because he's maintained the gap behind to Finley, but at the same time, he's also lost a bit of time. So maybe he's trying to help those drivers along that are behind, try and bring them through closer towards Matteo, give Quantum a bit of DRS, give Silo a bit of DRS, something along those lines, or back them up so that, FRT down when he gets past Gavroche is going to be back into the DRS. Silo is going to potentially look for the move. He got very close to the back of the McLaren, but never actually made the move. Never actually had a look for the overtake because he wanted to set himself up out of turn 6, 7, and into 8. Now, with the DRS, he's going to be able to make this move pretty easily, I think, past Quantum, and he's up into 4th spot. And these two working very well together so far. That has built the gap to the FRT down by 2.3. And Samuel Barker making his way through on Gavroche, who runs wide. Lifebout's going to try and make his way through too, but Gavroche stays ahead. Is the Frenchman going to dive into the pit lane on the end of this lap? I'm not sure. Lifebout is going to get ahead of the Aston Martin, and Ryderdale is the next driver up. Is Gavroche going to dive into the pits? That would do wonders for Ryderdale as Finley finally decides to dive into the pit lane, as does Chris RBL. Gavroche has not much fighting against Ryderdale to do, and he dives into the pit lane on lap number 13. Ryderdale up to 9th place, and Matteo still in the lead of this one by only 10.2.
Yeah, it's not as comfortable as it was. Well, it was pretty much this time, half an hour ago when the game crashed again. A game crashed and Matteo was leading it. But it's not as comfortable this time around for Matteo. There's more hard work for them to do when they come out of the pits. But They'll be on really light, they'll be in a light car on the faster compounder tyres. I know overtaking's difficult, but that could give them a little bit of confidence.
It could certainly give them just a little bit of confidence, just a little bit more than they would have had before. And, well, it's all about now who is going to be able to come out on top in this race. Of course, that is going to be deciding who becomes champion. Silo and Quantum's teamwork might cost Matteo an opportunity as Ryderdal's in 7th place. Remember, he needs 5th to secure this championship, and he needs 6th and Matteo not to win, in order to take the victory home. Lap 13 of 29, almost about to head on lap number 14. And Matteo continues to lead this race, 9.5. So he's lost 7/10 of a second to Silo on the previous lap. And that is a huge gap to have as Quantum picks up a 3-second time penalty. That could come into play towards the end of this Grand Prix, as Dan is now 2.1 behind, and Samuel Barker would overtake him if the race was to stop now. But if the race was to stop now, Matteo would, well, he'd be disqualified because he'd be on the same tyres on a completely dry race. But at the same time, he would be champion as it stands if everything was able to stand. Of course, it won't be able to, and so I can expect him to stay up for maybe another 6-7 laps, something like that, and remain in the lead of this one for as long as he possibly can, and ward off Silo and Quantum for as long as he can.
Finley, 22 and a half seconds behind Matteo. That could be the timing gap that Matteo's engineer will be telling them about when they pit, because there's a little bit of gap between them and as Ryderdal getting past Lifebout and Lawrence being passed by Venom in all that as well. Let's go and have a look on board with what Lifebout does to Ryderdal, whether they fight back at all, but I don't think there is. I think it's just going to stay as is as they head towards turn 9.
Yeah, Ryderdal not in the DRS Samuel Barker. That could cost him time, but Matteo at the moment is also not in the DRS of anybody, so it could be costing both of them time. It's nullifying it out, and Ryderdal now just outside of the DRS on Samuel Barker, and it's not a bad position to be in, knowing that he could easily get in if Barker decides to fight with Dan. But the McLaren, I mean, he's put up a staunch defensive performance against Ryderdal, and this is what I meant by coming in early and disrupting the Alpine's race. He is still ahead of him. He's still got the chance to fight with him, and he's still got that DRS on Dan to boot. So the McLaren here, if he wants to put up a defence against Ryderdal for whatever reason it may be, he's doing a stellar job.
Yeah, maybe he feels slightly aggrieved at what happened with the lobby disconnecting. Who knows what the reason is? But lap 15 of 29, we're halfway through this one. Matteo leads the way, yet to pit, the only driver yet to pit in this Grand Prix. We had early pit stops, really early pits from Azim and Yassi Asaki to disrupt things a little bit. But yeah, as things stand, with a pit stop to Matteo, Ryderdal looks like they are going to be the champion at the end of all this.
Yeah, very much in a strong position to do so, unless there's any sort of incidents or any sort of problems for him, or if Matteo is able to pull off an absolute world of a performance, and what a performance it would be. He's going to be begging, praying for a safety car within the next 5 laps. But, of course, as I mentioned last time out, we've only had 3 safety cars so far across the course of this season, and so it's a very unlikely proposition that will happen, especially with the grid. This is the most spread out I've seen the grid this entire season. Just, everybody stays in a DRS train until what would be lap 27 or 29. Not the case this race. 15 laps in, and, it's about half the grid remaining in DRS of each other.
It is. It's been a weird old season, and this time we've got breaks. But the race before, there wasn't that many. Or I say the race before. The disconnect race, let's call it. There wasn't that many breaks. This time, it seems like there is. It's a bit of an odd one, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, it breaks the momentum because you've just suddenly got into a rhythm, and suddenly you're having to start all over again. You just come off qualifying into the race, which is the normal routine. This time you're coming off a race to another race, so it's a little bit difficult for drivers to comprehend. And with it being so close, with it being such a tight championship, that can really throw things out of proportion for you, as Samuel Barker had a bit of a slide in the first few corners, and that has opened up the door for Ryderdal to get a little bit closer, but a slide for himself outside of turn number 5, and that might cost him the position on Samuel Barker, who's 9/10 back on FRT Dan. Of course, he's going to reel him back in with DRS, but he's not going to reel him back in by that much. He's going to be about 5/10 back by the time they reach turn number 6, and they're going to open themselves up to turn number 7, and onto the exit of it, Samuel Barker is about 6/10 behind, so he's not lost all too much in that small little mistake, and Ryderdal has lost a little bit more in the mistake. that he would have made himself. Silo now 5.4 in behind Matteo in Quantum, still with that penalty looming, waiting in behind Silo for an opportunity to overtake, looking a little bit further back, and the man who was first overtaken by Ryder Dull in those pit stops, and it was Yasisaki who got very, very close to the back of Azim, but now he's got Finley chasing him down, looking for an opportunity. Of course, his tyres are 8 laps younger, so he will feel like he'll be able to make his way through soon.
Yeah, Finley is... Ryder Dahl into the pits for Samuel Barker and FRT Dan, throwing another spanner in the works. 2-stop. Let's see how that handles then. This is going to be interesting. Finley, I was going to say, is one to watch because of their tyre life, but it's all over the place now. There could be some multiple things going on. Quantum has dropped out of a second to Silo as well. It's all kicking off with it all. We don't know. I don't think we're going to know how this one's going to run down until the final lap, which is pretty good.
Well, if we have a look at the strategies that they could go for, the medium hard is an option of a strategy. You pit around lap 6, which some of the drivers did, and then you pit again on lap around 17, which is what one of the drivers has done in Samuel Barker. We might see more drivers in. So 2-stop is viable, and that adds another dimension to this strategy battle. As off the circuit is that Matteo off the circuit? Indeed it is! Matteo's gone off the circuit at turn number 8, and that's surely his championship gone. Is that a puncher? And it's going to be deja vu in console tier 1. Matteo's lost his right rear tyre. And, well, that is another championship thrown down the drain.
What a case of deja vu. But this time it wasn't the championship leader that had the puncher to suffer it. It is the challenger. And I tell you what, Matteo is going to be fuming with this. I feel for them at all. Ryder Dahl now leads the Grand Prix because everyone else is boxing and getting themselves in. It's gutting if you're a Matteo fan or if you've seen what's going on there. But wow, Matteo's championship, 16-lap-old tyres, blew up.
Oh, he couldn't move. He got stuck on the curb, so we had to reset to track. It's all gone wrong on this lap for Matteo. And, Ryder Dahl, surely he's going to be champion now. Surely, barring any sort of incidents, any sort of problems, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Ryder Dahl is going to be the champion. And, well, he leads this race with 11 laps to go. Let's hope his tyres don't blow up, eh?
Matteo has thrown in the towel. That is such a shame for what proved to be a really good start to this race and really positive as well from Matteo. Wanted to try something different, kept with it, doubled down, but it just didn't work. Such a shame for Matteo. Did a really good job, and let's hope, well, that's nuts. I don't know where we can go on board with. ETA Azim is fighting away with Chris RBL and Finley. And Finley trying to find a way back through Chris RBL. So I'm not sure what's happened on that side, because Finley was ahead of Chris, but now he's behind.
Got drivers into the pit lane as well as, well, it looks like as though we're going to be getting fights for the podium that we didn't quite expect. And of course, this does mean that we can officially crown Ryder Dahl your season 21 console tier 1 champion. And, well, he may as well retire from the race, doesn't need it. But, of course, he's going to try and finish this one out on a high. And I've received information from Matteo. His tyres won 84%. And, well, one of them blew up. And 80% is the window where you're highly unlikely to get one. It's 90% where you're likely to get one. Matteo got one at 84%. And then he got another one at 84% as Lifebout's almost been wiped out by Samuel Barker out of the pit lane. And, well, he's managed to stay clean. And he might have end plate damage. I didn't quite see whether the Haas did have any problems. It looks like he's fine, but he may well have had a little bit of an issue there, and he might have a little bit of his front wing off, as that's going to be a late send for Samuel Barker on the inside of Niall Gio and trying to swipe across him. Little bit of contact between the two, and Gio drops down. He might drop down another position. Lifebout on those brand new hard compound tyres is trying to chase his way through right in the slipstream of the Red Bull, and a late lunge to the inside. Is he through? He is going to be through because of the new tyres that he's got, and that is Lifebout into P10.
What's even more gutting for Matteo is Matteo's a host of this, so he has to stay and watch. This is just adding like a salt to the wound, or twisting the knife in the by being stabbed in the side or something. It's just gutting for Matteo. Yeah, I feel for Matteo right now, but let's just see what else battles on track. FRT Dan and ET8 Silo battling away with Quantum, really struggling for overall pace. So I'm not sure what has happened to Quantum in all this. Siawadi's left the session. That's not ideal for the driver that's in 12th place, sorry. But yeah, not great. Samuel Barker trying to get through, but Ryderdale is now behind, Ryderdale. So has a little bit more work to do on their side of things.
Yeah, a bit more work to do at this point in time. And, well, these drivers at the moment are just, you know, they're fighting over these positions, these lower points positions. Those at the top look like they're sorted, and Zviade into the session once again in 12th place in pretty much a no man's land. I mean, last year's game, you'd say no man's land was probably about 5 seconds back, 5 seconds in front to the drivers. But instead, it's about 2 seconds. That's where the margins have really been cut down.
Yeah, indeed. I've just, you know what, when you're lost for words for a driver, I felt exactly the same at the end, or last season in season 20 in the finale, when it happened, and it's just happened again. And the deciding factor is tyres. Chris RBL still. Let's talk about, obviously, those tyres punctured. Finley is now holding up Silo, obviously on the harder, the longer used tyres. Silo should be able to get past, but how far can Finley go in this race?
I think he can go a very long way. I mean, he's gone for a long first stint, but that's probably because he's going to attempt a one-stop as into the pits and retiring. Zviade goes, and that's the end of the Williams' season. But yeah, I mean, I think the drivers in front at the moment are going to go for that one-stop strategy. Silo through on Finley, and we might see Dan through down the next straight and maybe into the next corner. He did have a jink to the inside, but he stayed in behind for the time being. He's going to wait for the exit of the corner, and he's going to wait to get past Finley with all of that DRS to boot. Can he get through as Silo is closing in on Chris RBL as well? He's not going to be able to get through. That red light is flashing once again. His ERS tank is completely empty. And, well, Chris, 1.2 seconds up, remains in the lead of this one as Ryderdale gets through on Gavroche, and he's up into 6th. And, well, that would have been the position to almost confirm himself champion anyway. So this could all be in futility, all this fighting, as Philly through on Dan. And he's trying to defend. Quantum, the door is open for him, but the door was only slightly ajar, so he didn't find his way through. Dan remains in behind Finley. Can he get through out of the final corner and down to the main straight? We will wait to see as Finley gets a 10-second time penalty for corner cutting and gaining a place. So I think maybe there he's seen that. Well, he might have just gone slightly off of the circuit at one point when he's crossing through on Dan, and well, that dropped him a position. He did give the position back in the end, but it wasn't good enough. 10 seconds for Finley.
I believe that was from turn 12. Finley, Dan was a bit aggressive up the inside and had to, well, Finley just kept the position. So the stewards may deem to take that one back off. I'm not sure, but now Quantum getting past, and Chris RBL has been passed by Silo as well. This looks like a race for Silo to lose now. He's very in control, especially now Quantum has been dispatched into that second grid. Lifeboat is getting past Gavroche through there as well, and Ryderdale 3.6 seconds behind Finley. But yeah, is the champion. Could pull over on the side of the road, celebrate with the side of the track, celebrate with the crowds, and it wouldn't matter. What is also another nail in the coffin for poor Matteo. Not going to finish second in the standings.
No, he's not, and he actually has to watch on with this race because, of course, he's the host. So he has to watch this race to the very conclusion and the final laps of this season in total. It's lap 22 of 29, and he's going to have to watch on as Ryderdale snatches that trophy towards the Alpine camp, but of course the wrong side of the Alpine camp, and he'll have to pose for photos with them being, of course, the Constructors' champions. And well, it'll be a little bit sheepish, I think, because Venom sets the fastest lap of the race. He's the only driver on the medium compound tyre at this point in time in the race. He's in 10th, and he could catch up to Gavroche and Lifeboat, both of whom have penalties, and so he could be finding his way through very, very soon. Silo has managed to make his way past Chris RBL Quantum, the next driver up to try and attack, but he's trying to conserve himself for a late race lunge, and so the McLaren stays in position where he is. Dan is going to be the closest to making a move on Quantum, rather than Quantum making a move ahead. He remains behind.
Sammy Barker and Lifebout swapping positions there for P7. But yeah, it's been a funny old race. Lap 23 of 29 here. It will be dusk soon. Dark here in Abu Dhabi as FRT Padan does get past Quantum and stays ahead into turn 9 there. But it's a bit of a, I don't know, bit of a somber end. We wanted this championship to really go down to the wire, didn't we?
We didn't. It very much looked like it was going to, and maybe if we'd kept the first playthrough, it would have. But unfortunately, that's not the way the cookie crumbles, as Venom is through on Gavroche. And well, it does feel deflating to have this championship fight built up, to have Matteo in a good position, not just once but twice, as there's yellow flags, and that's going to be Niall Gio spinning around in the final couple of corners on the racetrack. He's able to get going once again, but that is the Red Bull round. If I was Matteo, I know that was a gutting way to have a problem. I'd have stayed in this race just in case.
Yeah, and anything can happen in Formula One, and it sometimes does, but yeah, it's just not to be tonight for Matteo, and it's one of those. It just feels like it wasn't meant to be. Those two mistakes at Japan and Emilia Romagna in Imola, and that was for both of them, for both drivers, just cost them massively.
Yeah, very much. It's unfortunate as, well, that's going to be Quantum past Dan, and he's up into third place and closing in on the DRS of Chris RBL. So it might be a late race fight for P2 that could be on lap 24 of 29. Of course, not lap 30. That would be the victory lap for Ryder Dahl, and the victory lap for what could be one of Silo, Chris, Quantum, or FRT Dan. The four drivers in the lead at the moment, and Quantum is in the DRS of Chris once again. And well, I don't feel as though the Kick Sauber is going to get the opportunity to fight for this one that hard because of his older tyres.
Let's see how it will pan out. It's come back together, hasn't it? The top four. Chris RBL has done a wonderful job. Let's not take that away. He unsung hero out of this, could come back in with a really great set of points for Chris RBL. Let's see how that one will pan out, but has dropped out of the DRS of Silo ahead. Has now, well, it did get there in the activation zone, so it's going to be a little bit more of a problem for Silo for a lap or two more, but with 5 laps remaining, it's probably over to Quantum and Dan. But I think, is Chris on for a podium if Chris can keep up with Quantum and Dan because of Quantum's 3-second time penalty? That would be such a story for them.
It certainly would. What a way to finish the season that would be. Ryder Dahl is bearing down on the top group, and he's 3.2 and behind. So as it stands, he would be overtaking Quantum, who has that 3-second time penalty. Or not yet, but with the momentum he's got, he'd be overtaking him nice and easily. And well, he's going to be trying to close that gap ever further and try and make it a top 5 battle for the lead as Gavroche is through on Lawrence, and he is into 10th place. Lawrence drops down to 11th. But yeah, I mean, we're going to head on to 26 of 29 now. We've only got 4 laps to go in this race. Silo looks like he's extending that gap to Chris, so this could be an opportunity for him to, really take this race by the horns.
Yeah, let's see how it will pan out, unless Silo could be giving Chris the DRS to have a buffer between themselves and Quantum and Dan behind. I think Silo wants to finish the season on a high, happy to just want to win, but they could do that by pulling away from the drivers ahead. They've got the pace. Silo is happy to have, oh goodness me, Quantum nearly losing the back end heading into turn 6. A little bit Tokyo drift. Don't know if you can say Abu Dhabi drift with it making sense, but it manages to hold through and keep the position. But here comes FRT Dan around the outside of Quantum and into third place proper now for Dan. And Ryder Dahl is slowly catching this up, as Ian getting past Gavroche and getting close to Lawrence in it as well. But lap 26, as dusk falls here in Abu Dhabi, Silo might be winning, but the title or the championship is going Ryderdal's way.
It certainly is, and well, Silo, it's a case of what could have been if he'd erased those 2 rounds that he missed. We might still have a title decider on our hands, as Lawrence has decided to take the matters into his own hands and try and destroy the race of Yasser Saki. So, well, for the Williams, that's not a great look in the final round of the season, of course, where everybody's wanting to end it on a high, and it's not like he's had any problems as well. It's getting very, very close and very tetchy on lap 27 here. FRT Dan on the back of Chris RBL. He's closing in, but he's not going to be close enough. It's going to be down to the DRS down the next straight as Lawrence decides to call it quits for the season and end his season in the Williams, of course, having significantly influenced the outcome of this race, I think.
Incident Turn 1, lap 27. FRT Dan has no front right end plate, clipping the back end of Chris RBL, who just got caught out with their overall pace. And this could cause problems because I think, well, it won't affect too much of the overall pace for FRT Dan because of the way they're going. But round this part of the circuit, they're going to lose a lot of speed.
Yes, they certainly are. It's going to be difficult to fight their way through here without losing any sort of time. And FRT Dan has dropped off to the back of the pack behind Quantum and Ryderdal. Now in the DRS, this is an opportunity that the Alpine wants to take to round off this season on the podium with not just a trophy for finishing on the podium, not just one of those commemorative caps, but also the Champions Trophy to display off to the vast crowds here in Abu Dhabi. And lap 28 to 29, he's got 2 positions to make up and a penalty to overturn, but he could still do it.
Let's see how it will go through. Real struggle for FRT Dan. I didn't think it was going to affect them that much, but it has. They've got no proper pace. Oh my goodness me, the back end massively stepping out as they go through turn 5. I thought they were going to career into the back end of FRT Dan then, and if that was the case, could have been out of the race, and Matteo probably would have been even more angry because they could have got back into the swing of things. But, well, at least closed the gap down with points. But as things stand, we've lost 5 drivers in this one. Fana, Nail and Gavroche all going on to a set of softs to rounding it out to try and battle for the fastest lap of the race. Venom hasn't been able to produce too much more in 9th place on those soft medium compounded tyres, and Azim 8 seconds further down the road on the back end of this one. And Ryderdal in 4th place proper at the moment. Let's see how lap 28 of 29. It's penultimate lap of the race, and it's been a little bit subdued, mainly because we've lost the driver of Matteo on lap 13, and it cost lap 16, and it cost them the title. But on the final lap of the race, Silo leads the way by 0.9 of a second to Chris RBL, and Quantum and Ryderdal squabbling over that final podium position.
They are, and the 3 French drivers, one more washed than the other 2, are, well, they came in for a set of the softs. Ryderdal down the inside of Quantum, he managed to get through, and the Alpine is up into 3rd place now, and this could still be on here because Dan is 1.3 in behind, and Ryderdal is going to have that DRS. That's going to give him a huge advantage down the straights as he remains in 3rd for the time being, getting very close to the back of Chris RBL, trying to push his way through the last sector of the season. And with that DRS down the next straight, he's going to try and extend that gap back to FRT Dan. It currently stands at 2.1 seconds. He needs to gain 9/10 out of the final corner to be able, or the final sector even, to be able to crown himself on the podium for this season and for the end of this race. But of course, he won't mind because we could get trophies in the end for the top 4. He's 2.5 now ahead of Dan. It's going to get very, very tense between the 2 and between Quantum as well. But it is going to be a very, very strong race. Silo managed this race well with Quantum, and when the McLaren dropped off, he really took this one into his own hands. The Red Bull wins the final race here in Abu Dhabi. Chris RBL takes 2nd, Ryderdal in 3rd, but Dan picks up the podium after penalties. Quantum takes 5th place after all the penalties are applied. It's going to be Venom in 6th, Samuel Barker in 7th, and Finley in 8th. Life out, and then Yasser Saki and Azim are going to Well, try and fight each other around the final corner. Doesn't matter. Lifeback drops out of the points, and Yasisaki and Azim pick them up. But in the end of the race, it's going to be Silo who took the victory in a very mature way. And it's, again, we've mentioned this a couple of times. It's a case of what could have been. I mean, he's won 3 times as many times as the 2 drivers who took the victory in the championship. But that is going to be it for the season. And the man in 4th place here today, it was a very well-managed race. Matteo did all he could, but his tyres did not want to save him. And that's going to be championship victory to Ryder Dahl.
What a way to end the season twice in a row. We've got drivers picking up punctures on the final race of the season. And that is not ideal for some of those. Let's have a look at what Fanaspin can do, because Gavroche managed to get fastest lap. Nail Gulak got fastest lap, and so somehow I think the fastest lap did go to Fanaspin. I'm not sure, because they were off the track for most of that final sector. But there we have it. That is the Abu Dhabi, the final race of season 21 here in WOR season is going Silo's way on the race, but the championship will go to the driver, the finished P4, and that was Ryder Dahl win. What an indifferent season, I suppose you could say it was for Ryder Dahl. But as the podium celebrations for none of the, well, Silo finished second. I was going to say none of the ones that finished first and second in the championship, but Matteo having a really bad thing about it tonight. Race winner is, well, the driver of the day has gone to Chris RBL, and, you know, I will seem to agree with that one, starting 13th on the grid and coming back to finish on the podium, or with the one-stop strategy, which didn't work for everyone. Finley couldn't make it work, but Silo wins, Chris RBL and Dan on the podium. The champion finishes 4th, claiming the championship tonight. Quantum in 5th, 6th to Venom, 7th to Barker, Finley in 8th, 9th to Yasir and Azim, rounding out the point-scoring positions. Lifebout, Gavroche, Nail and Fanaspin were the drivers that finished the race. Lawrence, Ziwadi, Armateo, Andrea and Dirk did not finish this race. And that is season 21 done in a nutshell, pretty much. Heartbreak, controversy, pretty much all we would have wanted for a final race of the season.
Yeah, very, very much so. And, well, what a race it was. I mean, if we'd have had, you know, if his tyres had held on for one more lap, then what could have been? But, unfortunately, that is the way the cookie crumbles. That is the way that racing is, and Matteo will come back next season, I'm sure, with a lot of aggression, with a lot of fight, with a lot of spirit. And, well, I mean, at the end of the day, he's already got a rig from World Online Racing Legacy Division. He doesn't need another one.
He could have supplied it to me. Not that it would probably help me race any faster, though, to be perfectly honest. That's why I stick to the commentary box. Wow, what a season. What a way to end it. We've had some highs, we've had some lows. How do you round out a season like this? Because it's been a bit, on a new game, it's been a bit hit and miss, and it's a difficult one, isn't it?
It's very much difficult to quantify, really. I mean, you had 3 drivers so much quicker than the rest of the grid on a consistent basis, or 4 if you're counting Francesco Largo. But Ryder Dahl, Matteo, Silo, and, well, Largo, of course, so much quicker than everyone else. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, we had a different winner in every round of the season, barring one, I think, if I'm doing my maths correctly. And, well, what a season that is. And actually it's 2, because Silo winning the last 2 rounds of the season. So every single winner apart from Silo was brand new. What a season that is. And, well, it's drivers trying to establish their names in this season, on this game, and, well, in the world of World Online Racing.
Well, let's have a quick look at what it was this season. We started at Australia, had a very early safety car there where we thought maybe that was for things to come, but it wasn't. Then Spain, Belgium, United States, Monaco, which was always what Monaco is like. Azerbaijan, Great Britain, with again ending with the last few laps causing a few controversial moments. Imola, the Alpines, both drivers went to the wayside. Japan, it was the final lap of the race again, where drivers all over the, well, I say all over the place, battling away, squabbling away, and Silo coming out victorious on that one. And then again, Abu Dhabi, the same. But let's see. It's not very good. They really need to change the way this looks. They need a full screen. But Ryder Dahl is the champion for season 21. And my goodness me, what a season it has been, all over the place. I know it's difficult to ask at this stage, but what's your highs of this season?
The last laps at probably Britain and Japan, I think they were the peak moments of the season where no idea what's going on, absolute carnage, great to watch, and it just summed up the console racing scene in 2025, where maybe it's a little bit less organised, but it's absolute chaos nonetheless.
It is indeed. Well, there we go. It is season 21 done and dusted. It is possibly the only league out here in the racing world where you'll get 2 championships back to back decided on punctures in the final race of the season. I don't think I've seen anything like it. Will season 22 have a puncture at the final race of the season with a championship contender? Well, find out soon. All the information for season 22 will be about soon. From everyone from the backroom staff, for Joseph, I thank you all for doing what you do, because it's impossible to do it without you guys, and for the drivers themselves. Just make sure it's a little bit cleaner at times, and we'll enjoy it even more. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in season 22.